Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. Yesterday, I didn't make a video about DC Dark Legion because I was busy ranking the heroes, not counting the limited ones, to prepare for today's video. Honestly, it was quite challenging since every hero has their own strengths. Alright, let's not waste any more time and jump straight into the main topic. First, let's talk about Tier D. In this tier, we have two heroes, Catwoman and Atom. Actually, Adam is really strong in the training simulator. However,
Let me
because he
make
always
some
leaves the
quick
battlefield
calculations.
after using his ultimate, I had to place him here. In terms of damage, I really wanted to rank him higher, but I couldn't push anyone else down. So let me remind you again, being in a lower tier doesn't mean they are useless. It just means they're not as strong compared to other heroes. It's the same with Catwoman. She has the ability to drain attack, which reduces the enemy's damage and increases her own damage.
I'd
But
love to
since she
see
only
you
deals
fail.
single target damage, and her damage isn't very impressive, she ends up in this spot. From what I've seen, her single target damage is even weaker than Adam's area of effect damage. Tier C includes Black Canary, Captain Cold, and Black Adam. Black Adam and Captain Cold are both pretty good heroes for the early game, especially Captain Cold. He's still useful in the late game
Stone
because of his
cold.
ability to make enemies take 60% more physical damage. That's why he's popular in combat cycles when fighting single bosses, since he focuses on single target attacks. He also pairs really well with Deathstroke and Nightwing. However, if we only look at this ability, there are many other heroes who can do it better. His crowd control is also noticeable, but since it has a chance to fail, he's not picked as often. And in his faction, the Legion of Doom, he doesn't really have a solid place, so you rarely see him in PvP. Black Adam is similar. His strength lies in area of effect damage and
You
also
will learn
spiritual
why the
damage,
ancients
which is
called me
quite
mighty.
solid. But later in the game, there are many better replacements, so he slowly gets forgotten. As for Black Canary, I think she has
No
several
one can
decent skills.
withstand
For
my
example,
canary
she
cry.
can reduce the enemy's accuracy, lower their attack, and increase her own physical defense. Overall, she helps with survivability quite well. However, her ultimate is pretty bad. At 5 red stars, it can silence enemies for 6 seconds, which is nice. But at 5 white stars, it's only 2 seconds, the same as Wonder Woman's stun. And since enemies usually don't have enough energy to use skills yet when silenced, it feels almost useless, so having her in this tier makes sense. Tier B includes Stargirl, Deadshot, Red Hood, and the Penguin. Stargirl becomes more valuable if you can get her to higher star levels, especially when facing enemies who stack debuffs like Joker.
I'm ready
However,
for
at
another
5
mission.
white stars, she's not very effective since her ultimate only removes 1 stack. Just like Black Canary, she requires heavy investment to truly shine, but because she belongs to a stronger faction, I placed her 1 tier higher than Black Canary. Next is Deadshot. His damage is decent, but not on the same level as other
Come on.
strong damage dealers. His main strength is reducing the enemy's healing ability, which is useful, especially against tanky opponents. The downside is that it only applies to single target attacks, so he can't spread this effect across the whole enemy team. That's why I placed him here. He's situationally useful, but not outstanding. Now about the Penguin. In terms of damage, he's actually stronger than many others. Even though he deals single target damage,
Sounds
his
like
3 summoned penguins can
screaming.
explode, causing nearby enemies to also take damage. Each penguin explosion deals 600% of the penguin's attack, meaning his ultimate adds up to 1,100% damage, which is on par with Sinestro. However, he isn't used much in Arkham teams because his abilities don't offer strong synergy. What's worse, despite being a ranged hero, his 4th skill works best when he's placed in the front row. That makes him easier to defeat quickly, so most players keep him in the back row, causing his 4th skill to become useless. Finally, Red Hood. He specializes in area of effect damage, though
I
it's
can
not
do this
particularly high
all day
compared to other
long.
AoE heroes. His biggest drawback is that he dives into the middle of the enemy team. Even though he gains increased dodge rate, his survival chances are pretty low. The reason he risks this is to boost his crit rate, allowing him to deal higher damage. Using him is definitely a high risk, high reward playstyle. I ranked him here because at least he's still valuable in many situations where AoE damage across the entire enemy team is needed. Now, let's move on to Tier A. Starting with Arsenal.
Anybody need a
I think
scrappy
his
metal
damage is
band who's good
quite
with a
good,
bow?
but I still don't really understand how his counterattack works. From what I know in some games, counterattacks only trigger when a hero gets attacked. But since Arsenal is a ranged hero, the chance of him being targeted is pretty low. However, this game is more chaotic, so I'm still not sure how exactly his counterattack mechanic functions. For now, I've placed him here, but maybe later I'll rank him higher once I understand it better. Next is Killer Croc, a tank that has recently risen in popularity. The reason is simple. There are many strong physical damage dealers now, like Supergirl, Deathstroke, Nightwing, Ra's al Ghul, Talia al Ghul, and more. Croc fits really well into PvP, especially for survivability in the early game, and he also reduces enemy physical defense, which helps his teammates deal more damage. He's also an essential member of the Legion of Doom. Then we have Robin, who deals a lot of damage, but it's completely random across his 9 slashes, unlike Arsenal, whose 9 arrows all hit one target. In terms of total damage output, Robin can deal double compared to Arsenal, but he works best against single target enemies, like bosses. Basically, if you like playing with luck, these two heroes are for you. If you prefer consistency, they might not be the best choice. Red Robin is also a
Red
solid
Robin's
tank,
all
but he
over it.
really needs to be in the Bat Family faction to survive at his best. That's why I placed him here. He's stronger now thanks to the Bat Family synergy, whereas before he might have only been Tier C. Aquaman has recently gained popularity because he's a direct counter to Nightwing and other
I
assassins
am
like Deathstroke.
Aquaman.
His crowd control is very strong, preventing enemies from using their skills. If you upgrade him to red stars, the effect lasts even longer, meaning you can completely shut down the enemy's ultimate. Lastly, Vixen. I don't know what you guys think, but whenever I use her in my damage dealing teams, she
I
performs really
like
well.
this
She
noise.
helps the team defeat opponents quickly, even those with higher combat power than mine. So I think she definitely deserves this tier, along with the others here. Now let's move on to tier A+. Starting with Batgirl. She's an excellent
Batgirl,
crit
over and
supporter,
out.
making her a perfect fit for physical damage dealers. Recently, physical damage heroes have become much stronger, especially within the Bat family with the arrival of Nightwing. That's why Batgirl has climbed up the rankings significantly. If you're running a Bat family team and focusing heavily on Nightwing, you simply can't skip Batgirl. Next is Mara, one of the most popular healers. She's easy to star upgrade and
I will
genuinely
take care of
strong.
this.
She's the only hero who can heal her teammates right from her first skill, which makes your team's survivability skyrocket. If you've ever been worried about Deathstroke's attacks, she's the perfect solution. I've used her many times, and she's proven to be very effective. Moving on to Bane. At first, he was just a tank focused on
I was
survival and
born and
didn't provide
wanted
much
for
team
this.
support. But recently, he gained a much more useful role for the Arkham faction, granting immunity to forced movement effects from enemies. This includes Poison Ivy's charm, Hawkgirl's pull, and similar abilities from other heroes. Because this is such a valuable improvement, I moved him up to this tier. Then we have Shazam.
Shazam to
Many
the
of you already know he's a very
rescue!
popular tank, especially for new servers, because of his survivability and ability to absorb damage to protect his team. He's also quite troublesome to fight against. But there's another role he plays that not many people notice: countering assassins. Since he draws enemy attacks toward himself, assassins like Deathstroke and Nightwing are forced to use their ultimates on him instead of your main damage dealer. Of course, this only works if your damage dealer can survive long enough until Shazam activates his ultimate. As for Cyborg, he's similar to Captain Cold in that he boosts physical damage output, but
I'm
Cyborg
all
applies his
over it.
debuffs on a wider area, making him even better. With so many strong physical damage dealers in the meta right now, he becomes a great support option. For example, pairing him with Supergirl allows her to deal even higher damage. Finally, Two-Face. After the recent update, he's become an excellent support for the Arkham
I'll
faction,
tackle
making
this
that team much
ultimately.
stronger than before. Because of that, I've placed him in tier A+. Now let's move on to tier S. First is Harley Quinn. The main reason she's here is her damage output combined with her survivability. Her only real weakness is that her faction isn't very strong, but individually, she's definitely not weak at all. Next is Batman. He's another solid damage dealer who also
Your
survives well.
vengeance.
Right from his first skill, within just a few seconds of the battle, he gains dodge and avoids being targeted, which allows him to last much longer. His damage is area of effect, though the circle isn't particularly large. Then we have Dr. Fate, a very strong survival supporter despite being a
Evil
guardian.
is never
His
truly
first
defeated.
skill grants a shield to an
I'll
ally,
help you
making him
gain
an
the
essential part
victory.
of many lineups when facing assassins. Pairing him with Mara creates a survival combo that can keep your team alive against assassin-heavy opponents. Moving on to
I like
Raven,
working
she's
with
also a
you.
strong healer, but her
I
weakness is that she can't heal herself very well, so she's vulnerable against dangerous enemies. That said, she has the ability to take damage in place of a teammate to save them. Even though she risks her own survival, saving your team's strongest hero greatly increases your chance of victory. The only drawback is that this is her second skill, so if your ally gets defeated too quickly, she won't get the chance to use it. If that skill were her first skill, I'd probably put her in tier S+. Next is Green Arrow. He's a strong damage dealer thanks to his
Hand me my
self buff
bow.
that increases crit rate, and he has 3 damage dealing skills. His ultimate is single target but hits the same enemy up to 3 times. I'm not completely sure if it's 950% damage each hit or 950% total across all 3 hits, but with his high crit rate, the
Hand me my
actual
bow.
damage often goes well beyond that. With support from Batgirl, his damage potential skyrockets. I've used him often, and he's helped me defeat bosses in combat cycles, especially against single targets. Then there's the Flash, currently the best damage support in the game.
I'm the fastest man
His only
alive.
weakness is that he's melee, like Vixen, which makes him easier to defeat. Sometimes he doesn't even get the chance to use his ultimate before being taken out. Finally, we have Crypto. He's an excellent survival supporter, especially for the Superman family. He also has crowd control, causing enemies to fall, though it doesn't last long. His biggest weakness is that he can be crowd controlled even while casting his ultimate, which cancels the skill. Sometimes he still manages to heal teammates, but he won't be able to reduce enemy attack power if he can't move. Overall, he struggles the most against crowd control heroes, and since they're very common in the meta, I can't place him any higher than tier S. Finally, let's move on to tier S+. First is Lex Luthor, currently the
Step
best mythic
aside while
AoE
the
damage
real
dealer.
champions handle it.
His main focus is attacking the back row, which is usually filled with vulnerable targets. Thanks to his skill that boosts energy right at the start and also increases energy recovery speed, he can use his ultimate much earlier than others. At maximum stars, he can even unleash his ultimate twice before the enemy gets to use theirs. At lower star levels, he still helps his Legion of Doom team use ultimates faster than opponents, but not to the same extreme. Next, Next is Poison Ivy, the most complete healer in the game. She heals
I'll take
allies
care of this.
effectively, summons minions
A
to
little
disrupt
help from
enemy
my
focus,
secret
and
garden.
charms enemies to control them. On top of that, she heals herself a lot, making her survivability outstanding. Then we have Wonder Woman, currently the best tank in the game. Honestly, even at just
I'm
legendary rank,
lovely
she's
except
already
with teeth.
tough for most enemies to take down, let alone when upgraded to Mythic. With 2 strong control skills plus the ability to generate shields, she offers both survivability and excellent team protection. Lastly, Green Lantern. Even though he's a pay-to-get hero,
Where
he's
there's a
still mythic,
will,
so he
there's
belongs
a
on this
green
list.
lantern.
His survival support is top tier. I only have him at 0 stars, but even then, he's been useful in many early game situations when I needed support. Because not many players invest in him, he's less common than other heroes, but that doesn't take away from his strength. All right, I'll end the video here. If you want to watch the full tier list video and more exciting content, I'll leave the links in the pinned comment below. Be sure to check them out, and don't forget to leave a comment. My channel doesn't get many comments, so it feels a little quiet. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.